I wanted to get to the earnings a little bit later on, but I think investors, a main point of interest has been you guys approving the $600 million in capex for Prominent Hill and this copper expansion. I'm guessing it signifies that you're quite confident in the copper market outlook. What is that outlook right now? Because we've seen copper prices come down quite a bit from the record highs that we've seen.
Yeah, look, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. I'm really bullish on copper fundamentally over the medium to long term. There'll be short-term volatility as geopolitical events unfold, but medium to long term, I'm very supportive of this industry. Supply side in copper is very tough to come by. Finding good quality new copper mines is difficult, and if you look at the global trends right now, the average copper mine cost of production is going up, grades are coming down, the capital costs are going up. So from a supply side, there is real pressure on the industry. And I think from the demand side, pleasingly, probably for the first time, I think the entire planet is rallying around decarbonisation and cleaning up our emissions footprint. So whenever you talk about decarbonising and reducing emissions, you're effectively talking about increased requirement for copper, because copper is one of the key ingredients in electrification, energy storage, and energy transmission. So I'm certainly very confident on the commodity. We've spent the last 5 or 6 years building a strong pipeline of growth opportunities in OZ Minerals. One of the big ones is the decision we took this morning, and that is to install a vertical shaft at Prominent Hill to reduce the operating cost, reduce carbon emissions, and give us a lot more flexibility for the future of the asset.
Given the demand picture you just laid out there for copper, do you think the supply can actually keep up with that?
I think it's going to be challenging for the current pipeline to keep up with the future supply. I'm really pleased, as I said, to see all sectors now really rallying around decarbonisation. I think it's so important for the planet, and I think we all need to be leaning that way. Our company aspiration within OZ Minerals is to get to zero emissions. That's a big aspiration, but I do believe we can get there in the medium term. So I think it's really important for us to actually undertake that journey. So yes, I do think copper is going to be a key ingredient for that. Unfortunately, there isn't a wealth of new projects sitting out there ready to be built, though, to create new copper supply. So it is going to require additional exploration. It is going to require large amounts of capital to go into new capital developments for copper to keep up with future demand.
Andrew, so much optimism, but there's so much risk out there as well. I mean, the Delta variant, we're already seeing a slowdown in China's economy, New Zealand going into a lockdown, and it won't be the last to do that. I mean, how are you factoring that into all your projections?
Yeah, look, it's a fantastic question. It's interesting. In OZ Minerals, we define risk as threat and opportunity. And for every threat, usually is created opportunity. So within OZ Minerals, we've been working on our organisational culture for some time. And when the pandemic arrived a year and a half ago, we used it as a platform to help accelerate our company strategy with people's health, well-being at the very centre of that, of course. It's actually helped us move into a more virtual environment. So the results that you're seeing coming through now are a result of the organisational culture we have in place. There are risks ahead of us. Managing within a COVID environment is very different to managing pre-COVID, but we're looking at this scenario as being COVID is here indefinitely, and we need to learn to live with it. We need to learn to work within it and manage the risk accordingly. So the results that you've seen here, I think, are a very good result of a team of people that have worked very hard and diligently in a COVID environment already to actually produce these results. And we're confident we can continue to produce these types of results, given the culture we have in the business.
COVID is here indefinitely, the Delta variant more infectious. Is there a need to perhaps make vaccination mandatory for mining workers? How are you looking at the issue?
So we're incentivising people within the company to take up the vaccine. So I've certainly been vaccinated. We're encouraging other people in the organisation to be vaccinated. We do think vaccination is the pathway to less controls, if you like, in environment, but I don't think we'll ever eliminate all controls. So we're actually moving to a new norm. And it's interesting because the controls we put in place for COVID, we're also seeing now much less occurrences of the common flu or the flu generally, or the common cold or gastro and other viruses. So I actually do think some of these controls we put in place as a result of the pandemic are actually good for us more generally. But I do think we need to see the general population vaccinated to help us actually move to a more risk-oriented way of managing COVID nationally and internationally.
Andrew, before we go, I wanted to get your take on your gold outlook as well. Are you just as confident that gold is going to outperform like copper will? We have seen it. I mean, we're back to what, year to date? We're lower than what we saw at the beginning of the year now.
Yeah, OZ Minerals produces about 25% of our revenue from gold. So it's a byproduct of our company's strategy and the types of deposits we have. Our focus is very much on copper. We see that as one of the key ingredients to the future of the planet. We are pivoting slowly to nickel. One of our new projects is in nickel at West Musgrave. It's a about 50-50 copper nickel project, because we also see nickel as a primary commodity for energy storage into the future, which plays into decarbonisation. Gold is a much more completely different commodity, so we don't really try to predict where gold is going. It's really just a useful byproduct in our deposits. Gold is more a product, I think, of global stability than anything else, so it's not a commodity we're necessarily primarily focused on.